Come set up a new bullet journal with me for the new year 2026. So I get a new brand of bullet journal every year. This one's from Reticy. I got it from Amazon. I really like it because it has two tabs and also has elastic close. And it also has a pen holder. My old one didn't have a pen holder, so that's really nice. It has this pocket in the back and also bonus optional stencils. I don't know how much I'll use these, but it's cute that they have it. So, bullet or dotted journals are very popular to use for daily journaling, and I've been using it for a couple years now. I have a few videos on my channel all about it, and I've gone toward a more minimalistic style. I use one pen for this whole setup, but yeah, I'm going to show how it is. So, starting off, I like to start off with a blank index page, and this is where I like to leave open for any reminders or thoughts or special memories I want to refer back to that might jump out throughout the year. So I have a whole page for that. Now, the next page, I like to put in the key. So this has been consistent for a couple years. Different notations I use. There's some I adopt from the bullet journal community that are pretty popular, and some I made myself as well. Every single bullet journal, I also like to start off measuring the pages and counting the number of dots. This has been different on all my journals, but you could see here how it compares to my old journal. This journal is actually really similar to my old journal, where it's similar layout and it only has one or two squares or dots more. So I could pretty much use the similar layout. My new bullet journal has 42 squares in height. So I was able to count that out. And since my old bullet journal had 40, I like to divide the spaces for the way I do my calendar, for yearly calendar and monthly calendar as well. So I count out all the spaces first, and then for my regular calendar, I like to divide up the height between five, so there's 5 rows for each month. And so for this journal, the easiest way to do that is to do squares of 8 in height and leaving a little space on the top or bottom. So that seemed to work for me. And this is how I count it down and space it up. I like to know where the midway point is too. And so in height, that's 5 rows for a monthly calendar. And going across the width, across the bottom, I like to count there. And I counted 29 squares. So I like to divide this part up into fours for my monthly calendar. So there's easily divided by 28. That would be 7 spaces with a space, just one space on the side. And I like to look at the layout of the bullet journal. Not all bullet journals are created equally. This one, the edges, even though I count them as a square, sometimes they're very, very cut off. So I'll just leave space on the edges for counting the squares. So I like to have 4 equal spaces in the bottom for my monthly calendar. So that will be spaces of 7 squares times 4. Now, for the yearly calendar, that's going to be a little bit different. I like to do my yearly calendar 3 by 4, so 3 months across and 4 rows of months. So for that, I have to count it a little bit differently across the height since it's 4. I'm just going to do an even 10 spaces, so for 40 squares with a space at the top or bottom. So 10 spaces in height for my month, and then on the bottom, divide by 3, I'm going to shorten it to 27. So we'll do a little bit of math here. So there's going to be 9 spaces for each calendar month across the bottom with space on either side. And I think it makes it pretty even. And so I do a little ruler on the left and bottom. This is my own measurement, and it makes it easier for measuring throughout the year when I fill out this journal for me. And keeping it on the left hand side is key for when I do my months later. Now, with filling out the actual yearly calendar, I like to do one whole year on the right hand side, and then on the flip side, I like to do the next year. So I'm going to do 2026 on the right side and 2027 right behind that, flipping the page over on the left side. So, as best as possible, kind of eyeballing it without a ruler, I like to make spaces to where I want to put the calendar. I do mess up here a little bit, that's okay. Sometimes I have whiteout tape, but I don't have that this time. That's totally fine. It's your calendar, doesn't have to be perfect. And so I try to align it first, putting dots or little notations here and there. For the yearly calendar, I just want to have space at the very top to put the year and then the month, and then I put lines for where I want to space out each month, so they're neatly spaced out as best as could be. And so once I have the lines in, I like to start off my week on a Monday. So putting in the notations, the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday at the top of each month. And I just repeat that throughout all the months. So this can get very repetitive, especially if you do it by hand. But I find it pretty therapeutic for me as well and meditative, so I enjoy it. I used to have monthly stamps where sometimes it could make it easier and more uniform, so you go by faster just stamping everything you need instead of writing each date by hand. But I don't have those stamps anymore, and just keeping to a more minimalistic planning, I like to just use the one pen and I could do everything I need with it. So I have those all spaced out, and then I have the months written in from January to December, and it fills up the entire page. And then after I put the letters for the weeks in, I will pull up a calendar either online, or I can reference my old journal since I usually have an extra year in there to see what dates fall under which day of the week. So usually Googling 2026 Monday start date shows the right dates for me. And so I'll just go in handwriting each day now. So that did take a while, and I'm going to save the 2027 for later. And the nice thing about the 2027 on the flip side is that you can usually see your ink marks through the page, so sometimes it's easier just to trace those ink marks just to kind of mirror the other side for the second year. But I'm going to save the dates for 2027 for a later time. And I'm going to move on to starting out my monthly January setup. So usually I've just been keeping it simple by writing the month and the year just in my ballpoint pen. But I thought I'd try out these stencils and see what they have to offer. There's some cute little flourishes I could add, so I tested adding those in. I thought the snowflake would be cute, but it didn't come out as expected, so I just tried to draw one freehand myself, and that one came out even worse. So I just kind of added a little bit more fireworks and flourishes for January here. But usually it's just been the month and the year number without any other flourishes or additions. There were bullet journals I had in the past where I went all out on art and color and watercolor as well, and those were fun, but I haven't really done those in a while. But it's also really cool if you do that, and then your bullet journal turns into kind of a keepsake sketchbook art book as well. So after making the cover page, I usually keep it to the right side of the book. I flip it over so I have a full spread for the entire month. So for the month of January, I just double check when the day starts, the first of the month, and when it ends. And I just keep a mental check of where I want to put the squares, because a lot of times I'll leave squares open if there's no day in there. And so I like to reference my key that I just made by maneuvering the page to show both my new month page and align it as best as I can to the key. So this is where it's helpful to have the key on the left-hand side, so you can align it and make notations and marks where you want. So I'm using the 8 squares of 5 rows at the left, and for the columns, I'm just going to count those as 7 squares. So I'll make my little marks and I'll put the lines across. And then for the 7 squares of columns, I'm just going, or the 7 little spaces, I should say, the bullet spaces of columns, I'll just make sure to leave the ones blank that I want and just put all down. And I always leave the left side for notes. So I have 4 columns technically of the calendar, and the leftmost column is always for notes, and then I have 7 columns for the days of the weeks afterwards. And so once I had those blocked out, I like how uniform it looks. I like to take up as much space as possible for the calendar, so I could put notes in each individual day as needed. So the nice thing about this month is that I have room to put a big January 2026 at the top left. Sometimes I don't have room for that, and I'll just put it at the very first line of the bullet journal up on the top left-hand corner, which works fine as well. But here I really get to showcase the month because of the spacing that allows. And just a note, sometimes if there's spacing that allows at the bottom of the month, like if the month ends on a Monday or Tuesday, and I have a bunch of space at the bottom, I might put extra notes like goals for the month or the next month there as well. So once I have it blocked out, I put in the notes and I put a squiggly line on the left side to differentiate that those are the notes section and not the days of the week. And then put in the days of the week at the top. And then I start blocking in my numbers referring back to the yearly calendar that I just filled out just in case. I like to put my numbers at the bottom right because I find that it leaves the best space for writing in notes or important dates near the top portion. And so once I have all the dates filled out, this is the base of my calendar I make every single month. And this is when I can add the different important dates or upcoming stuff. So any upcoming dates. And on the left hand side for the notes, you could really add anything. I've been using it as my food planning or meal planning area. So I'll put like what's in my fridge and as a reminder to try to use those up before they go bad. And throughout the week, usually I'll do this at the beginning of the month. I'll plan out what I want to cook that week, but depending on what I have available or what sales are at the grocery store. And it just helps me organize just my food intake better. And I also find it helps with like saving money instead of resorting to buying outside the house and stuff like that. But yeah, you could use your notes for anything. I used to keep a whole separate page for my food log and meal planning, but I find that this compact space in the notes section totally works for me because I don't really use the notes for anything else much. Okay, so that is my bullet journal monthly setup and also brand new bullet journal setup with the yearly calendar, the key, the measurements as well, which helps out a lot. And hope you guys enjoyed this. And yeah, thanks for watching.